It's hard to stay cool, calm, and collected. I'm so excited with what I'm about to do. It's something that I thought would be an impossible dream. I never even dared put it on my bucket list, but it's gonna happen. Amazing. I'm gonna get to drive the 1600 metric horsepower Bugatti Chiron Super Sport. I never thought that would happen. Let's go. Before I set off driving in this amazing beast, note that for logical reasons, we need a chaperone for the Chiron. And that would be none other than professional endurance race driver, class winner in the 24 hours of the Nürburgring, Jamie Morrow.
Hi.
Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you. You did your homework.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, let's kind of do a little walk around, talk about the Chiron and certain details that distinguish the Super Sport from your regular Chiron.
Yeah, okay, so this is the Bugatti Chiron Super Sport. We have 5 primary models in the Chiron model range. We have the Chiron, the first car, the Chiron Sport, which had some weight saving and a few little tweaks to it. We had the Pure Sport, which we have the fixed wing on. We had the lower top speed of 217 miles per hour.
But livelier handling.
Livelier handling. With the lower top speed, we could be more aggressive with the geometry on the suspension and therefore make it a little bit more pointy and lively. And then we had the 300 plus to celebrate the limited run 300 plus to celebrate the record of the 304 miles an hour. And now we have the Super Sport. The easiest way to kind of classify the Super Sport really is a combination or a halfway house between the Pure Sport and the 300 plus.
Okay.
So we have higher top speed than we did in the original Chiron, so 273 miles per hour on the Super Sport.
Which translates to 440 kilometers per hour.
Correct, yep. And we have the long tail on here. The other unique thing with the Super Sport is we have the additional 100 brake horsepower over every other model in the Chiron. There are 500 units worldwide of all Chiron derivatives.
Which I believe were just sold out last month.
Just sold out in January, yes. So we're now complete with the Chiron model run. And this is the final product within the model range.
I understand in the Super Sport the vents are a little taller.
Yep.
Lower intakes, I mean?
Correct, yeah, and the front splitter here is a little bit larger as well. So that's a kind of carryover from Pure Sport. So it's very Pure Sport on the front, bottom end down here. And really the key on this car is airflow and controlling the airflow, hence the long tail on the car.
And the 16 on in the grille?
Purely is an optional extra. You don't have to have it, and we put the 16 on there purely to recognize the engine, the W16 that we have in the car.
Now those oval intakes on top of the fender are interesting. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so really the primary thing with the very high top speed of the car is, like I was saying before, airflow and managing air and evacuating air. One of the big things you get at very high speed is high air pressure in the wheel arch. So we have a lot of control over here and some additional venting, which we don't have on some of the other cars, or we do, but in a different format. Air control over the car, we want to try and prevent lift at 273 miles an hour, and clearly that's quite an engineering feat.
And that leads us to the rear.
Yeah, so
this is what the Italians would call a coda lunga, or long tail.
Exactly.
So battery electric cars talk about front trunks is all the rage, but as a rear mid-engine car, the Bugatti Chiron has a proper front and very nicely finished, I might add.
Yeah, and we can actually, for US regulation, US market, we have a divider in here for child safety. Without that in there, in Europe, it is designed to accommodate a full-size airline carry-on.
So it's quite... Is it removable?
You wouldn't want to remove it in North America because of the regulation.
What was the regulation again?
It is to do with child safety.
Are you going to stick a child in there?
I
Child or two children? And to keep them safe?
I don't know where you guys came up with it, but yeah, it's that, and you have to have an opening inside. You have to be able to open the trunk from the inside.
The opening
all
inside,
American
I
cars.
can understand, but
Yeah.
okay, whatever.
All right, so here we are inside the heart of the beast, sitting inside the interior of the Bugatti Chiron Super Sport. And one of the things that surprises me, frankly, I was expecting bespoke switchgear, like really unusual and fancy, like you might find on a Pagani or to some extent a Spiker, but instead some of it seems quite ordinary.
We don't have a big LCD screen in here because it ages the cars quite quickly. So to make it more of a timeless interior, we moved everything in terms of driver interface into the driver instrument panel and kept it as clean,
I agree.
and simple as we could here.
Do they offer these in right-hand drive or no?
Yes.
Because I noticed the instrument panel is perfectly set up for that. You have this in the center. You have the curves. It looks easier than average to go from left-hand drive to right-hand drive.
Yeah, and I guess you have no engine in the front as well, which makes it a little bit more simple. But
Absolutely, you don't have the Nissan Skyline situation where you couldn't make them left-hand drive because the steering column would be piercing the
Right.
turbochargers.
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, no, back to the Chiron. Another detail that I find interesting, that most cars tend to have like reverse up and drive down. This is opposite, but it's actually more logical. You want to move you reverse, move it back.
Yeah.
Drive forward, you move it forward. It's actually more logical. But it's the only car I've seen that does that.
Yeah, it's a dog leg left for the reverse, and then just across for the drive and sport. And everything in terms of the gearbox is controlled through here. So the drive modes on the car don't actually affect the gear shifting. If you want to go into the sport mode, or if you want a manual shift, it's all through the lever here, or the paddles on the wheel. Well, some of the design features, we have the C, which you have
That's
on
right.
the outside, follows through into the interior here. As it respects with Bugatti, it is customizable pretty much to your heart's content in terms of you can have different stitching on here, you can have your own personal emblem or family crest up on the headrest.
No, that is immaculately so perfectly. You don't see any ragged edges or anything.
No.
Very well done.
Yeah. And everything again is what you would expect from Bugatti. So we partnered with Accuton, which is a very high-end home audio producer, and that is where our audio comes from. And we even have 1 carat of diamond dust within the tweeters within the car, which provides that whole clarity.
Wow, to go with all the gold inside the engine.
Yeah, so anywhere where there is a benefit to using material, it will be used within reason.
Although if I remember correctly, wasn't the gold more apparent, more visible on the Veyron compared to the Chiron, or am I mistaken?
Yeah, from memory, I'm trying to think now. From memory, when the wing is raised on the Veyron, you can see there's some gold leaf around the exhaust area.
Another detail that struck me is I was always under the impression that race car drivers preferred big fixed paddles attached to the steering column. Yet you have these little ones that go with the steering wheel, just like in most more ordinary cars. That surprised me.
Yeah, it is. Street cars have the two different takes to it. The normal thing that people tend to go for is having the paddles on the wheel. Some people do have them fixed onto the steering column.
There are advantages and disadvantages to both techniques, and I guess it's really personal preference. In terms of driving a race car on track, it's a little bit different because we have so little movement in the wheel. We're only turning 45, 50 degrees of lock.
Right, makes sense. Well, speaking of driving, take it for a quick spin.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Impressions after a spin cut short by a pretty heavy downpour shortly after we left here. And when you know, we come back and it's nice here, but during the route, weather was not so cooperative. Reminds you of home, maybe?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not what you normally find in Miami in winter, but my impressions, I am very pleasantly surprised at how docile it is, considering the 1600 metric horsepower it's pulling along. On the other hand, during the very few gaps in traffic, when you could step on it for a little bit, you could tell it's like you're like holding back a wild stallion. But it's and the versatility is surprising though.
Yep, yeah, it's very usable around town. It can be docile, as you put it. And one of the great things with all-wheel drive, of course, is if we have weather like we had today, we can actually get the power down to the road, and we have versatility.
Right. Another surprise is how much visibility to the back there is. I was expecting near zero, but even with this split, there's actually a little more rear visibility than I expected. And the raised wing, which we have raised for heat dissipation reasons, it's not like we're trying to generate extra downforce or anything, it actually kind of helps define the rear end of the car.
Yep, visibility is great, and we have a B pillar here is quite far back, you probably noticed, so you have good visibility on the freeway. That's right. For people next to you, which is great. And yeah, rear visibility is good. We have a reverse park camera on here, of course. Again, it's very useful.
Right, much more than you'd expect. Well, thanks for taking the time to share this experience with us. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.